And welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. And today we'll be speaking about a very important segment in the Egyptian, or rather in the whole world economy. We will be speaking today about the small and medium enterprises. The role of the small and medium enterprises has been very much proved successful in the development in many economies all over the world. That is because they are projects which are easily initiated. They carry various benefits to the state and, of course, to the people, and that in the very short time, not like the mega projects which have its impact, but rather on the long term. In Egypt, the small and medium enterprises represent a large portion of all the economic establishment and employment opportunities. However, the role in the economic development in the country is very much limited up till this minute, despite that the government is paying this segment or this sector in the economic development a very big attention. Today, we will be speaking or shedding light on this important segment in the economic, of course, overall performance. And of course we will be speaking about the current state of the MSEs in Egypt through discussing their size, the laws and regulations that are regulating those projects, and of course the various challenges that are facing them. Before we proceed on with our discussion, let's first have a big headline today, which is this important and significant meeting between President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has on Monday met with his Palestinian counterpart Mahmoud Abbas, where they discussed the recent developments on the Palestinian arena, particularly the deteriorating humanitarian and security situation and the continued construction of the Israeli settlement. Let's watch the report and we'll come back for discussion.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held talks Monday with his Palestinian counterpart Mahmoud Abbas, who is currently on a two-day visit to Cairo. Talks between the two leaders focused on efforts to push forward the peace process with the Israelis amid a recent flare-up of violence along the Israeli-Gaza border. During the meeting, President el-Sisi assured Abbas that Egypt will continue in its efforts to bring about the establishment of a Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders. For his part, Abbas spoke during their encounter about the importance of a speedy establishment of an international committee and the creation of international mechanisms in order to bring an end to the occupation and the establishment of a Palestinian state. The two sides agreed on the need to end the settlements, to supply the required defense to Palestinians, and to prepare the environment for solving the Palestinian issue. Both sides also discussed international and regional efforts currently underway, such as the French initiative on the renewal of peace negotiations between Israelis and the Palestinians. Cairo has earlier brokered a truce that ended a 50-day conflict in 2014, which killed over 2,100 Palestinians, mostly civilians, 67 Israeli soldiers, and 6 civilians in Israel. Abbas, who arrived in Cairo on Sunday, has separately met Arab League Secretary General and Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. Ministry's spokesman Ahmed Abu Zaid said that the meeting tackled efforts to support the Palestinian issue and preparations for an international peace conference France will host on May 30th in a bid to relaunch talks between Palestinians and Israelis by the end of the year.
Right, and to highlight the significant visit by Palestinian president and his meeting with President Fattah el-Sisi, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Hazem Abu Shanab, who is a high-ranking Fatah official. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello.
Yes, Ambassador Hazem, good to have you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, and my condolences to the families of the victims of today in Al-Ataba and the victims of yesterday who are, inshallah, martyrs in heaven.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. And speaking about today and the meeting between President Fattah al-Sisi and Palestinian President, the significance of the meeting, what exactly was the agenda of the talks?
The agenda was talking about separate, different issues regarding the region and regarding the international community. One is how are the developments which are happening in the region, changes which are happening in Palestine, Syria, Yemen, Libya, and Tunisia. This is number one, of course, and in Egypt. Number two, which is happening regarding the aggression of the Israelis against Palestinians, especially in the Al-Quds, Jerusalem, and in the Gaza Strip. All these aggressive actions by the Israelis against the Palestinians. How to overcome such aggressions, which is requested now by the Palestinians and I think by the Arabs, heading to the UN asking for a resolution to put an end for the settlements, the illegal settlements by the Jewish Israelis who are occupying the Palestinian lands. Number two, to try to prevent or to provide protection, international protection for the Palestinian people.
Yes, but Ambassador Hazem Abu Janab, these have been the questions raised for decades up to now. But let me ask you about the deteriorating situation in the Palestinian territories, particularly when we have heard about a direct confrontation in Gaza between the Israeli forces and some of the fighters in Gaza, and what happened exactly in this. And another important question that the Minister of the Parliamentary Affairs, the French Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, was just in Egypt, and he held talks with President Fattah al-Sisi on the upcoming international conference regarding the French proposal of an international peace summit for the Palestinians. So both situations, please. Yes.
Yes. In Palestine, the Israeli occupation army started their aggressive actions on the borders of the Gaza Strip. They started to shoot against the civilians in different places in the north and in the south of the Gaza Strip, and sometimes in the middle of the Gaza Strip. So civilians were injured, and some houses were also affected by the Israeli missiles and launchings. There were some kind of response from the Palestinians. I believe that they are with no result. I mean, with no harm in the Israeli side. But by the end, that the Israelis did stop their aggressive actions against the Palestinians, since the Egyptians and Jordanians, some others did interfere and try to convince the Israeli side to pull out their troops and not to start a new aggression against the Palestinians. This is what happened.
So from your point of view, how will this reflect on this important summit called by, of course, France and in Egypt? And particularly that we know that Mr. Netanyahu has already speaking out against the French proposal.
Yes, this is correct. Today, Mr. President Abbas and Mr. President Sisi were discussing this issue. There is a French invitation or initiative for the peace talks in the or the peace process in the region. The invitation, as I know, should be by the end of this month. But unfortunately, the Israelis did declare their position by Benjamin Netanyahu, who said that Israel is refusing the held-up of such conference, and they are not responding. I believe that there are some mechanisms can be done by the international community, especially when there is a high voice of the Israelis refusing any peace process with the Palestinians and the Arabs. I believe we are asking for a new mechanism as a kind of assimilation to the mechanism which was done Iranians 5+1. I believe that a similar mechanism can be created for the Palestinian-Israeli issue, and we can put up an end for such a struggle since more than 100 years.
Yes, remains to be seen. Ambassador Hazem Bouchanab, high-ranking Palestinian official of the Fatah movement, we thank you very much for joining us. And back to our topic, and the Egyptian National Competitiveness Council, which, or rather held a meeting on which they tackled means of enhancing small and medium enterprises in Egypt. Let's watch the report and we'll come back for discussion.
Minister of Industry and Foreign Trade, Tariq Qabil, said that 400 million Egyptian pounds has been allocated to implement the small and medium-sized enterprises SME strategy. At the Egyptian National Competitiveness Council, Qabil said the SMEs account represents about 8% of the total GDP in Egypt, which is the state is working to increase. According to Qabil, the SME Caretaker Act that will facilitate granting credit to SMEs will be presented to the cabinet after finishing its discussion with the Central Bank of Egypt and the Ministry of Finance. The ministry is working on allocating 10 million square meters of land to industrial developers in different governorates in Upper Egypt and the Nile Delta. Qabil noted that there are 2.5 million small and medium enterprises in Egypt, representing 75% of the total labor force. According to the minister, SMEs face financial constraints represented in the inability to obtain financing next to technical obstacles such as the ability to develop, as well as legislations and marketing problems.
Right, welcome back. And as I said at the very beginning, we're speaking today about the small and medium enterprises, which is supposed to be an important part and segment of the Egyptian economy. Let me first welcome our guests, Dr. Mohamed Beisi, Executive Manager of Beisi Center for Entrepreneurship and SMEs Development, which is affiliated to the General Authority for the Investment and Free Zone, the GAFI, right?
Right.
And Mr. Osama Mourad, of course, economic expert. Good to have you both gentlemen with us. And if I just start by defining what is supposed to be exactly the small and medium enterprises.
First, thank you for having us here tonight. The definitions of micro, small, and medium enterprises are different worldwide from country to another. Let's take the Egyptian one, or the latest one by Central Bank of Egypt, which already issued in last December. It differentiated between the existing and the new micro, small, and medium enterprises. According to the capital and labor, this is for the new ones, okay? And according to the sales and turnover for the existing ones. So if we need to define the micro enterprises, we should look to those enterprises which its turnover, the existing ones, is turnover or sales less than 1 million. This is micro. 1 million from...
These are small.
Yeah, micro. This micro. Yeah. This is according to the definition of Central Bank of Egypt. For the new or the existing ones, up to 50,000.
And what's the minimum of them, of their capital? What should be the
capital? Okay, so we define the capital for the new ones. According to the Central Bank, it's 50,000 Egyptian pounds. Okay, and labor less than 10. So this is the first layer. For small?
No, I mean here, we're speaking about the micro enterprises.
Yes.
It means that they are less than 50,000 pounds with less than 10 labors. Then we are speaking about another segment, which is the small or the medium, which should be less than 1 million pounds.
For the small, the definition for the small is 1 million for the existing ones, 1 million up to 10 millions, And for
which segments?
Segment of small
ones.
Yeah, small ones. Yeah, and the labor up to 50. This for the small ones.
The number of laborers working in the project.
Exactly. So for, and also for the medium, it's a different layer from 10 to 20, and also different from the new issued, the new small and medium enterprises based mainly on the capital. And this is the definition already announced by...
This is the main general frame of the small and medium and micro enterprises. Yes, Dr. Osama, if I may speak about the small and medium enterprises, I thought honestly that they were less than this amount of money, from 1 million to 10 million. I thought 1 million to 10 million, that is for medium.
Turnover and sales, yeah. I mean, for the
let me give you finish your question and let me give you an example how little a million is.
So no, I just wanted to understand how small and medium enterprises really can contribute to the Egyptian economy.
Okay. First of all, the global norm in different countries is that small and medium enterprises contribute somewhere between 60 to 80% of the economy.
It is already.
Canada is at 80%. Second of all, we confuse a lot in Egypt when we talk about small, the micro. 1 million annual turnover means 80,000 pounds per month, means 2,500 pounds per day, meaning any kiosk at an important street in Cairo is already bigger than micro. Okay, so because that's a high turnover business. Those businesses which you see small, if you sell for £1,000 a day turnover, that makes 30,000 pounds a month. That makes 360,000 pounds. So that is really the micro, and you have less than 10 employees. Once you have more than 10 employees, you are considered a small business. Once you have more than 50, you are considered a medium business. The definition for number of employees, because now with the benefits by the initiative of President Sisi, a lot of people want to benefit from the initiative. If we have startups, they don't have a sales figure. So I had to resort to another figure, which is capital or number of employees. The global norm, and once the companies get moving, is always measuring by the annual sales turnover. Because in today's world, you can have a great business without a lot of employees. The biggest companies in the world now don't own assets, don't have employees, they are apps, they are whatever. So you measure by turnover, because that's the one measure where really size shows. Because really the number of employees is not significant. But we did this because there is an initiative to lend small and medium-sized enterprises at a reduced rate, in order, because the government and President Sisi acknowledges and underlines the importance of the small and medium-sized sector in 3 aspects. They grow much faster, they hire more people, and the cost of employment is lower. The cost of employment, meaning, is a number, I divide the capital by the number of employees and measure that's the amount of money capital was invested to create an employment opportunity. In Egypt, for the big companies, it's around 200 to 250,000 Egyptian pounds. For small businesses, it can be as little as 10 to 15,000 Egyptian pounds. So it costs me less than 5% to create an employment opportunity with a small and medium-sized sector. However, the obstacle which the government, I would consider, with the amount of money President Sisi has sidelined for small and medium size, which is 200 billion Egyptian pounds. So it is the biggest national project that someone is responsible with a daily timeline to measure how many companies did we set up today, how many companies did we transform from the informal economy to the formal economy, how many companies did benefit from this program. Because it's not important that I say it's a good program. I want to measure. The main thing is that the people benefit from it, because Egypt will benefit more.
Yes, but this one, the formal and the informal, that we'll tackle very much indeed. But first, let me ask you here, sir, what are the basic issues, or what are the bases or criteria on which you, as the general authority for the free zones and investment here, choose? And not only, of course, this authority, but rather even the central bank. And I guess that there are several entities working on that. But exactly what are the criteria on which you choose a project to be sufficient or to be a real good project in order that you can really finance or give it the fund it needs?
Okay, well, let's first highlight what we are doing exactly in Beisi Center and the General Authority for Investment regarding supporting small and medium enterprises and entrepreneurs.
So let me change the question to suit you more. How do you define, or how do you, as a center, give recommendation for some of the projects to be accepted?
Okay.
What could be their criteria in order to be accepted for the loans?
Okay. For the loans, if you are speaking about the initiative of President Sisi and the Central Bank of Egypt of 200 Egyptian pounds. It's in fact, access to finance is one of the pillars or one of the challenges that facing small and medium enterprises in Egypt and in the region in general. So in Beisi Center, we are working in access to finance into different tracks. We have Bidaya Fund, which is a private equity fund of 134 million Egyptian pounds. It's directed as to small and medium enterprises, existing companies. It enters as a shareholder with the existing small and medium enterprises for a period of 3 to 5 years. Then it exit through the Nile X or the stock exchange. And the second access to finance track we are working in is referral to banks. So we are assisting different small and medium enterprises through our business development services. We have one of our pillars, or we are working in we have what we call Bidaya clinics, where we have different consultants, volunteer consultants, that assess and with Bidaya team, the small and medium enterprise to prepare its files and connect directly to the bank.
Yes.
We don't give a direct loan.
Yes, I understand. But what I really wanted to ask you here, sir, what kind of project? I mean, when the papers of someone who wants a loan for a project are being submitted for the central bank or for the GAFI or for all other entities that are concerned with this issue, what could be an accepted project for those entities? I mean, on which basis do you choose them?
For us in Bidaya, we didn't set the criteria. The criteria are set by the general rules from the central bank and according to each bank. Let's say applicable. It's just in the last months, different banks, either the
so
public or
the central bank is the one.
The central bank
which is assigned by putting the criteria in the basis.
Yeah,
right.
and
this is to know.
different banks.
Yes.
So we refer different enterprises to the banks, helping them to prepare their files and direct them to the.
And what
the
could be, from your point of view, or what are the most projects that you really have agreed on, or that you have seen really very much suitable for such an initiative?
The initiative is in its start, so we can judge if you are speaking about the new initiative You mean?
I'm speaking here about the acceptable projects.
Okay.
What I mean, which fields?
The fields are open. The fields are open. There is no constraints on any fields. Manufacturing fields have the priority, let's say, and let's say also in different government rates, we receive different applications and different clients from different government rates. So we assessing them, and so different sectors are welcomed by banks. So once they met the criteria of the bank, so it's already
yes. Getting back to you, Mr. Osama, and the formal and the informal sector, you have raised a very important issue that is beside the small and medium enterprises. We're speaking here about the informal or the gray market, and of course there are many chances for the gray market. Why we cannot really integrate this portion into the economic formal one, and let's say consider them as small enterprises, for an instance?
You raise a topic which is not an Egyptian phenomenon. It's a global topic, tried with several approaches in several countries. Peru, one of the leadership countries of integrating the informal sector in the sector. We have several seminars and conferences in Egypt. We had one 6 weeks ago, and we're convening again this weekend to discuss the integration of the informal. But the question is, do we want to integrate?
No, do we want, or do they want to be integrated into?
Both sides. You cannot force them to integrate. They have chosen to be informal. You want to attract them to be integrated. There are two theories. One is you want to attract them because you want to give them the benefits. You provide small enterprise, but you also want better statistics because the employees, you want to be registered, you want them to be insured, you want them to have social insurance, and you want the company to pay taxes. So these are the parts which are the responsibility of the company. We have found out that some of those companies or institutions or personal companies chose not to formalize. Why? Because Egypt's biggest problem is bureaucracy, red tape, and approvals. They move much faster and quicker in the informal sectors. And what they pay to survive in the informal sector is less than the burden if they would go into the formal system. So in order to attract them, we have to clean up the process for incorporating companies, for paying taxes and filing the tax report, for applying to the different financial institutions. Because as Mr. Mohamed mentioned now, Beisi Center is trying to help the banks, which means there is an initiative. The central bank does not execute. The central bank sets the guidelines. There are 5 state banks which execute. Each might have a different criteria, but they all deal with the small and medium size. They deal like with the big companies. So they go through the same credit process. And what we have done and talked about a lot before.
You mean here that they're not really facilitating the process
because the small and medium size need more of a hand-holding approach. It is not sure that they know exactly what the bank knows. They speak a different language. They are not so good in forecasting their numbers. Their business, because it's a new business or a growing business, the numbers are not stable or don't have a pattern, but have ups and downs. The number of employees is volatile. They might not have the whole hierarchy. So they need a hand-holding process, which, and here I always say, let us not reinvent the wheel. All the countries have made success in promoting and igniting entrepreneurship and small and business have not used the same vehicles. You cannot use the vehicles which deal with large companies as the banks for that. You establish or allow to establish savings and loan associations. You allow the post office to do lending. You allow associations like we do on microfinance in Egypt to lend to small and medium. You facilitate the establishment of funds like Bidaya, but not in form of private equity, but also in form of debt, issuing corporate bonds. So there are many ways countries have approached the issue, creating other institutions which are specialized in small and medium-sized businesses.
I just
Here
have...
you have raised two important points, which are taxes, and then how do the country really benefit from those informal markets here and projects, and at the same time, yes, indeed, we cannot really deal with small projects and medium projects as if we're dealing with big entities or mega projects, and it's very different. So what is exactly could be a motivation for those? Yes.
I have just one comment to what you just said. Mr. Osama said just about the informal sector.
Yes.
If you look to the percentage of contribution of informal sector to the Egyptian economy, we, according to the government and IDSA statistic, it contributes with more than 80% of the national number, no GDP, of the existing companies or entities. So 80% are informal. It's the official,
the reality on
the reality. The participation of this informal sector entities for exports, it's about 4%. So how can we raise the contribution of informal sector with the exports in order to enhance exports? Okay, for the GDP, SMEs in Egypt and in general, more than 80%. This ratio should be raised if we integrate the informal into formal sector. I will just mention our experience in Bidaya Center with informal and transforming to formal sector. It comes back to a pilot project. It was three years ago in Manshiet Nasser. It's with a garbage collection project. So in this project and the incorporation with different entities, Ministry of Environment, governorates, municipalities and localities.
Yes.
We succeeded by mid of 2013 to convince in this pilot project more than 125 projects to move to formal sector. And at this time...
How did you convince them to do so?
We had one-to-one meetings with these people. We spoke with this, the same language. We try to speak the same language. Okay, what are the benefits you will take? Okay, we were speaking about tax exemptions from all over the last period, and a legislative and a legal decree was about to be issued by the People's Assembly at this time. It was in the first months in 2013.
So let me here just be clear on that. So you're giving them a motive, which is that you're going to exempt them from the previous period.
Yes.
Yes. And then how are they going to be paying their taxes afterwards?
They will be registered, formally registered, and starting from the registration, and already it was about 125 entities were registered. They are convinced. But after 30 June,
after the 30th of June,
some changes and the People's Assembly were stopped. So the decree and the People's Assembly didn't.
Yes. So no. Just so you mean that was a draft?
Yes.
A law by the previous or the resolved
Exactly.
People's Assembly or Parliament.
Exactly.
Yes, before it was dissolved.
Yeah.
And then you did not renew this law, or you did not put it before the new Parliament?
Hopefully with the new People Assembly to discuss and
during
this
all this period, I mean, from 2013 up till this minute, what happened to those
for
projects?
informal sectors, different events, different discussions were there, but some laws, legislations, there was no legislation to support the movement of informal towards
and
formal.
That's another challenge.
Yeah.
No real legislations or regulations to regulate the SMEs. That's a big challenge.
Can I add another one?
Yes, definitely do. Definitely do.
The world is opening up, and everybody is competing. Countries are now treating themselves as companies who sell. So we have several countries in the region and outside where you can incorporate your company over the internet or buy a visit and get residency and get a permit. So we're not only now have a problem that companies do not formalize. We have also another problem that the companies where the owners are slightly sophisticated or have some knowledge incorporate outside of Egypt. And then you can do all your activities in Egypt. You're not taxed in Egypt. And you can also deal with foreign currency, because if you're a local company, you cannot charge in foreign currency. And you have a scenario where you can transfer the money abroad. So we have another challenge that you can incorporate in several countries in the region and in Europe and over the internet in those tax countries for less cost and effort than you can incorporate in Egypt. That's why we always tell the government it is not enough that you have a good system. Measure yourself according to the competition. The competition is running very fast. We have to run faster. Otherwise, we will have no companies registered here and companies will register abroad.
But now we're speaking about big initiatives. We've been hearing many loans, of course, even by the president himself, who has been speaking to many of our world lenders and world investors to come and big institutions, lending institutions, and he has been speaking. If they really want to help Egypt, then let them help Egypt, particularly in the small and medium enterprises. And this is why I am very much interested to understand exactly how do we choose those projects to be the ones that are suitable for giving them such loans, or who we really think they are going to be an added value to the initiative itself.
Okay, if we, you are again speaking about the access to finance and the initiative of financing and the conditions in order to be a successful project in order to get a loan. It's one of the important challenge, but it's not the only challenge. So the access to finance and financing the projects is not the only challenge. We have a lot of challenges here right now in Egypt. The regulatory one, the finance, the access to finance one, the entrepreneurship and the training. This is not our invention. It's the international organization reports and recommendations for us. The recent one was where the OECD SME policy index, where it assessed in comparison to different regional countries. So if we looked into the access to finance, we are similar to Tunisia, Jordan, maybe Morocco is a little bit for the macroeconomic and political stability in over the last period. They are doing well in access to finance, for example. But for other, let's say, for other indices or for other indicators like entrepreneurship, which I'm very interested to tackle entrepreneurship and its importance in supporting the Egyptian economy, because it's the new terminology which we should speak, the new terminologies worldwide right now, the world is speaking right now. It's not only the SMEs, the entrepreneurship and the innovative ideas. These are the main, and the knowledge economy, which is the main contribution to the different economies right now. And in our center right now, we are working very hard in this track of entrepreneurship in the Egyptian ecosystem. We are working in different governorates. We were in Upper Egypt over the last 3 months. We are in Sohag. We tried to fill in the gap, train different entrepreneurs and students for the new concepts. After this, through different programs, right now we are incubating. We have our incubator based in Sohag. So entrepreneurship is the real future we should target. So with the SMEs and supporting for SMEs and finance, we have different financial tools with the banks, with venture capital funds. We have different tools. But what we really need is to support entrepreneurs with the new innovative ideas. That's what I think very, very, very important right now.
A general strategy for the SMEs, of course, the entrepreneurship is part of, or supposed to be part of those small and medium projects that we're speaking about. I mean here, what kind of strategy that should be put at large by the government in order to be able to first understand exactly what sectors do we really need in order to accept projects to be part of that initiative, because that is a great initiative that we are speaking about. And second, to put regulations that would really put the whole idea in quite a legal frame. And third, attract more people to what we're speaking about, the small and medium projects.
Great idea. First of all, we don't need more rules, we need less rules. The buzzword here is process engineering and customer-centric. The government always looks at the laws and regulations and initiatives from the point what it is giving to the businesses. I want them to change the sides and look at the side from the business. What is business really getting out of the initiative? Because we have many initiatives.
It's a both side. It should be both sides.
No, it's not. The government is the service provider, and the businesses are the customers. So I have to please the customer.
But that is a first stage. Then we're supposed to, I mean, here, when the government is really helping the SMEs, it's because they want to integrate it into the economy, and after, or in a short term...
you have to know what is needed for help.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's why I say we have 200 billion set aside. Please announce every week how much was used. That gives me an indication. If I offer approximately a 10% discount per annum, and it is not used, then there is something wrong with the process. Okay? We had the same for the social fund. The social fund enhanced the process and is now doing much better than before. So we shall use the same approach, but not wait at the same time for SMEs. If it's not working, we need to fix it. If it's working, then great and fine. To your question, what sectors? I do not want to restrict sectors. Any sector which provides a good business plan and has a strategy which makes money, money is the value added. Money means employment opportunity, means payment of taxes, means GDP contribution. So we should forget about that I control
employment generation is also
the new generation. If I tell you that the largest hotel company in the world does not own a single hotel room, and the largest transportation company does not own a single car, the world is changing. The knowledge economy is grabbing.
Yes.
We are not lending to knowledge. We are not investing in knowledge. And we also don't have the paradigm. In order to be successful in the knowledge economy, you have to make several attempts, which are losses. We are not there, and we've been calling for a bankruptcy law for now 15 to 20 years, because bankruptcy is not a shame. We want bankruptcy to be a process whereby for an entrepreneur to succeed, he might have several attempts of failure, but he should not be blacklisted from the first time or not allowed to exit, because that in itself poses a fear or an obstacle for people to enter, because they're afraid once they enter, they cannot exit. And that's very bad.
That's an obstacle here that you've been speaking about, because we have regulations by the banks, and you know quite well that there is the so-called I score that puts that is one of the issues that to handle a project and the owner and what is his I score in the banks. Yes,
I think also more awareness should be announced for small and medium enterprises. If you know
what kind of facilities do
you know how much the percentage of those SMEs who are dealing with banks? It's less than 15%. So the worldwide
15% of what?
Who are having accounts, who are opening accounts in banks. So 15%. The worldwide ratio is more than 60%, almost more or less 60%. So we are
less. Or behind.
Behind. So behind. So it's we need more awareness, more announcement, more. It's okay. We have for the new initiative. It's only 5% decreasing interest rate. So it's a very good initiative to convince those small and medium enterprises to have access to finance. But it's not the only pillar, in addition to Mr. Osama, he said about the different policies the government should look at, or the strategies. If we looked at the 2030 vision or Egyptian strategy, it tackled the different areas. Starting from enhancing the business environment, the informal to formal, the incubation and the entrepreneurship, and finally, it have one pillar for the, or one point for the access to finance. But if we speak about generally the different strategy, we should look at enhancing the regulatory and the coordination between different existing entities. And I can say right now that there is a discussion right now at the different ministries level and at the cabinet level for having a new entity to work as an umbrella for different entities working to support small and medium enterprises in Egypt. For example, Bidaya or Gafi supports small and medium enterprises. The Social Fund for Development also working with its slow...
And many ministries,
and many.
Of international
so
cooperation.
each entity will different... IAD, okay, it's a private or an NGO company. IAD
IAD is also governmental, belongs to the National Investment Bank, so it's...
Right, so many entities, and there are also many ministries working in this domain. Just to end up with, from your point of view, how can we really, or how do the SMEs, how can they really contribute to our economy? What exactly facilities do they need in points, so I can end up with?
You need what is in other countries called a better business bureau, or someone who helps, not where they apply to get a loan, who get them through the process and can give them the money. Because if you separate both, you have an entity which recommends and then the bank which lends. The bank, in any case, will do the same process again and will do its credit policy. So first of all, you have a duplication and a delay and a different type of mentality and approach. You should have new entities which are allowed to lend to the small and medium-sized sector, or you should facilitate and encourage the role of intermediaries, meaning that there is a need for companies to advise small and medium-sized enterprise how to get money from the banks. However, the banks should ease the access in terms of that they should get their money through the intermediaries, which is a solicitation role whereby banks use financial advisors as brokers or facilitators and give them part of the fee in order to make their life easier.
Yes. And of course, our conclusion is that we really want to make life easier, particularly for those small business people, small and medium business people. And let me thank you both gentlemen, Dr. Mohamed Beisi, Executive Manager of Beisi Center for Entrepreneurship and SMEs Development of the GAFI, of course, and Mr. Osama Mourad, Economic Expert. Both, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Many thanks for watching. Guest tomorrow would be another contentious debate with another colleague.